There comes a moment when you're just tired. Tired of forcing, tired of chasing, tired of trying to make everything fit. And in that stillness, something strange begins to happen. Life starts moving, not because you pushed harder, but because you finally let go of the grip that was blocking the current. This isn't apathy. This isn't giving up. It's the sacred shift from control to co-creation. You stop obsessing over timing, outcomes, validation. And that surrender? That's when life starts to show up for you. Because when you stop trying to bend the river, you become the water. And the water always flows. If you're in that space right now, confused, uncertain, maybe even numb, this video is your permission to release, reset, and realign. Not by effort, but by energy. You're not falling behind. You're falling into flow. The energetic cost of over-attachment. Attachment doesn't just drain your time, it drains your energy at a soul level. When you grip too tightly to outcomes, people, or timelines, your frequency contracts. You start operating from fear, not flow. You try to control what you can't, micromanage the future, and cling to expectations that no longer serve you. The result? Exhaustion, anxiety, resistance. Attachment creates energetic tension that blocks what you're trying so hard to attract. When you're overly attached, you start to believe that without this one thing, this person, this job, this dream, you'll be incomplete. That illusion pulls you into desperation. And desperation is heavy. It pushes away the very peace and clarity you're seeking. It also confuses your intuition, making you reactive instead of receptive. You begin chasing energy that isn't meant for you, and in doing so, you abandon your alignment. Attachment turns desire into dependency. Wanting something is natural, but needing it to feel whole is dangerous. It makes your vibration conditionally stable when things go your way. That's not empowerment. That's emotional volatility. You give your energy away to what you can't control, and the more you cling, the more you repel what's aligned. Why? Because the universe responds to frequency, not force. We often think care equals control, that if we stop caring, we'll stop attracting. But real power is quiet. It doesn't scream. It doesn't chase. When you're deeply aligned, you don't need to beg the universe to deliver. You trust. You hold the vision gently. You act when it feels right, and you surrender when it doesn't. That level of trust frees up massive amounts of energy you didn't know you were wasting. You don't just lose sleep when you're overly attached, you lose clarity. You start obsessing over signs, timelines, and outcomes. You misread delays as denials. You confuse quiet with failure. You begin operating from an anxious frequency that distorts your perception of what's actually unfolding. And in that state, you miss the beauty of now, the magic of presence, the stillness where real guidance lives. Over-attachment disconnects you from your inner self. It places your emotional well-being in the hands of something external. You wake up thinking about it, go to sleep worrying about it, and center your entire day around how close or far you are from having it. That mental loop becomes a prison. You stop being in the moment and start living in lack. And what you focus on, you feed. Everything in the quantum field responds to energy, not effort. You can work tirelessly, but if your vibration is rooted in fear or lack, you'll continue to manifest more of the same. That's the cost of over-attachment. It makes you misaligned while convincing you you're doing everything right. You might be taking action, but not from the right state. And in the quantum world, your state is everything. You start giving your power to things outside of you, hoping they'll make you feel safe, seen, or successful. But nothing external can consistently meet internal needs. That's why attachment becomes a trap. It convinces you that your peace is on the other side of a goal, a person, or a destination. But when you finally get there, it's never enough because the internal emptiness was never addressed. The more you chase what you think you need, the more blind you become to what's already available. Over-attachment makes you miss better opportunities, more aligned connections, and deeper wisdom. It narrows your focus to a single outcome and blocks your ability to pivot, receive, or grow. That tunnel vision may feel driven, but it's actually resistance in disguise. Your energy is sacred. Every time you overattach, you leak that sacredness into something uncertain. You begin to live from the outside in, instead of from the inside out. And the more you do that, the more disempowered you feel. This is why letting go feels so liberating. It stops the leak. It restores your sovereignty. It brings you back to center, where all real creation begins. There's nothing wrong with wanting. It's human to desire. But when that desire turns into obsession, urgency, or fear, you've shifted out of alignment. And the cost isn't just mental or emotional. It's vibrational. It delays your manifestations, clouds your intuition, and keeps you stuck in patterns of resistance. Letting go isn't giving up. It's restoring balance. So if you feel tired, stuck, or anxious, look closely. Ask yourself, what am I holding on to too tightly? What am I afraid to lose? And is that fear costing me my peace, my clarity, my flow? If the answer is yes, it might be time to loosen your grip, not because you don't care, but because your energy is too valuable to waste on what's not flowing. Why? Control blocks the flow. Control is the mind's attempt to protect itself. It clings to the illusion that if everything is planned, predictable, and perfect, then nothing will go wrong. But flow doesn't live in control, it lives in trust. When you try to manage every detail of your journey, you create tension in your energy. That tension pushes away the very things you're trying to attract. You can't grip life and receive it at the same time. The need to control stems from fear. Fear of uncertainty, fear of loss, fear of not being enough. So you build systems, routines, expectations, hoping they'll give you safety. But in doing so, you close off the quantum field's ability to surprise you. You limit yourself to only what your mind can imagine. And life's greatest magic always exists beyond that threshold. Flow requires openness energetically, emotionally, and spiritually. You must be willing to allow, not just plan, to feel your way forward, not force your way through. Control resists this softness. It wants answers now. It wants guarantees. But the universe doesn't respond to control. It responds to resonance. And resonance is something you tune into, not something you dictate. When you try to control everything, you block synchronicity. You become so focused on what should happen that you miss what is already happening. Your awareness narrows, your nervous system tightens, and the gentle whispers of guidance become drowned out by your own mental noise. Flow, on the other hand, is listening. It's soft. It's presence. It's letting life meet you halfway. Control often disguises itself as ambition. You tell yourself you're being productive, focused, responsible. But deep down, you're scared of what will happen if you loosen your grip. That fear creates friction. Your energy becomes rigid. You become reactive instead of intuitive. And what could have unfolded with grace now becomes delayed, distorted, or denied. When you force things, you exhaust yourself. You override your body's signals. You ignore the signs that say, not yet, or not this way. You chase outcomes that no longer match your vibration. And even when you succeed, it feels empty because the journey was built on resistance, not alignment. Flow gives you what's real. Control gives you what's forced. To flow is to surrender not in weakness, but in wisdom. It means you trust the intelligence of life more than the noise of fear. You understand that your role is to align, not to orchestrate everything. That doesn't mean you don't act, it means your action comes from a place of clarity, not panic. You lead with energy, not urgency. Control kills creativity. It kills spontaneity. It kills the miracles that happen in the spaces between your plans. You miss the unexpected conversation, the intuitive nudge, the door that opens sideways. You become so rigid in your vision that you don't notice when something better tries to find you. Flow, on the other hand, leaves room for wonder. When you let go of control, your energy softens, your body relaxes, your breath deepens. You return to your center, and from that center, life begins to respond. The people, ideas, and timing that felt distant start showing up without being chased. That's the power of flow. It magnetizes what you used to force. It invites, instead of insists. This doesn't mean you sit back and do nothing. It means you become deeply intentional while staying open to change. You set your direction, but release the how. You take inspired action, but don't cling to the outcome. Flow is not passivity, it's co-creation. You move with the universe, not against it. And when you do, everything feels lighter, clearer, more aligned. You'll know you've shifted out of control when peace replaces pressure, when curiosity replaces fear, when action feels like expression, not survival. That's when you realize control never gave you safety. It gave you tension. And the more you let go, the more life begins to reveal a path far more beautiful than the one you were trying to force. So ask yourself, where am I holding too tightly? What would shift if I released my grip, trusted the timing, and allowed space for the unknown? That single decision to trust instead of control could be the opening your life has been waiting for. Because the moment you stop resisting the flow is the moment it begins to carry you. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. Letting go is one of the most misunderstood spiritual acts. To the untrained mind, it looks like quitting, weakness, or surrendering to failure. But in truth, letting go is one of the most courageous decisions you can make. It's not about abandoning your dreams, it's about releasing your attachment to how, when, or through whom they manifest. It's trusting life more than your fear of it not working out. You don't let go because you've stopped caring. You let go because caring too much started to hurt your alignment. When desire turns into desperation, it blocks your ability to receive. Letting go softens your energy. It says, I no longer need this to define me. I trust the unfolding. That trust doesn't weaken your vision, it strengthens your ability to hold it with grace. Letting go doesn't mean walking away from everything. Sometimes it just means loosening your grip. It means no longer forcing outcomes, no longer chasing timelines, and no longer depending on external markers for internal peace. It means shifting from control to cooperation, from obsession to openness. It's not a retreat, it's a reset. There's a massive difference between resignation and release. Resignation says, it's not possible. Release says, it's already mine, I just don't need to control the route. One is rooted in defeat. The other is rooted in wisdom. When you let go, you create space. Space for clarity. Space for new energy. Space for the universe to move in ways your mind couldn't predict. Letting go invites higher guidance to take the lead. It moves you from ego to intuition, from noise to stillness. When you let go, you're not giving up the dream, you're giving up the weight of carrying it alone. You stop micromanaging the universe and start aligning with the flow. And in that flow, you become magnetic. People fear that letting go means nothing will happen, but it's often the opposite. It's the act of letting go that allows everything to finally move. You remove the energetic tension. You stop blocking the path with overthinking. You finally step out of your own way. And suddenly, what once felt stuck begins to shift naturally. Letting go doesn't erase the vision. It clears the clutter. You begin to see what's truly meant for you and what was only there to teach you. Sometimes we hold on out of habit, out of fear, or out of a story that no longer fits. Letting go frees you from those illusions. It lets your truth rise without distortion. This act of surrender isn't passive, it's profoundly intentional. It says, I choose peace. I choose trust. I choose to honor my energy instead of draining it through force. Letting go isn't the end of the journey. It's the moment the journey aligns with your soul's rhythm. And that's when things begin to feel effortless instead of exhausting. You'll know you've let go when your nervous system relaxes. When you stop checking for signs, stop needing validation, stop overanalyzing every silence. You begin to trust the gaps. You begin to breathe deeper. You stop waiting and start being. That's not weakness. That's sovereignty. When you stop trying to make it happen, life begins to support you in ways you didn't expect. The pressure dissolves. The magic returns. You realize you don't need to fight for what's already aligned. Letting go doesn't mean letting life pass you by. It means you're finally willing to receive it as it comes in divine timing, not your schedule. Letting go is an act of alignment. You're not lowering your standards, you're raising your frequency. You're declaring, I don't need to struggle for what's meant for me. That shift changes your energy completely. You move with more trust, more clarity, more ease. And from that space, what's truly aligned begins to appear without the exhaustion of the chase. So remember this. Letting go is not giving up. It's growing up. It's evolving into the version of you that doesn't beg life to deliver, but welcomes what flows, trusts what stays, and blesses what leaves. And from that space of inner power, everything begins to shift. Detachment as magnetic power. Detachment isn't disinterest, it's energetic mastery. It's the ability to want something without needing it to feel whole. Most people confuse detachment with coldness, but it's actually the opposite. True detachment is warm, calm, and confident. It says, I desire this, but I'm complete without it. That's where magnetic energy begins, when your frequency isn't tied to an outcome. When you're detached, you hold space for possibilities instead of clinging to specifics. You allow the universe to surprise you. You stop blocking flow with obsession. Ironically, the less you grip, the more life responds. Detachment opens your field. It says, I trust the unfolding. And that trust sends a powerful signal. You are aligned, receptive, and grounded in worthiness. Needing something pulls it further away. It signals lack. It creates resistance. But detachment radiates abundance. It says, I already feel whole, so anything else is a bonus. That's the energy that magnetizes. You don't chase love, success, or clarity. You become the version of you that attracts them without force. That's not passivity. That's power. Magnetic people aren't the loudest. They're the most centered. They don't over-explain, over-ask, or over-give. Their detachment creates gravity. You feel it in how they walk, how they speak, how they move through life with quiet certainty. They trust their presence. And because they're not reaching outward, everything begins to move toward them. Detachment doesn't mean you stop caring, it means you stop fearing. You stop fearing loss, rejection, delay. You stop leaking energy into what you can't control. And in that space, you reclaim power that was scattered. You become rooted in self-trust. And self-trust is magnetic. It doesn't ask. It attracts. Your energy becomes more potent when it's not diluted by over-attachment. The more you obsess, the more your signal weakens. But the moment you detach, your frequency sharpens. You send out a clear, undistorted message. I am ready. I am aligned. I trust. And the universe always responds to clarity, more than noise. You may have been taught that care requires control, that if you want something deeply, you must hold it tightly. But detachment teaches the opposite. It reveals that the deepest form of love, purpose, or vision is letting it unfold naturally. You become a steward of the energy, not a prisoner to the outcome. The beauty of detachment is that it allows for redirection without ego. If something doesn't align, you don't fall apart, you pivot. You don't beg it to stay. You bless it as it goes. That flexibility makes your energy fluid, and fluid energy flows faster than fixed energy. That's why detachment speeds up manifestation. It lets energy move freely. In detachment, your value doesn't hinge on what happens next. Whether the call comes, the answer arrives, or the door opens, you remain whole. That stability is rare. It's radiant. It's the kind of energy people feel but can't explain. It draws in aligned opportunities because there's no desperation distorting your field. You begin to realize that detachment isn't just a mindset, it's a nervous system state. Your body relaxes. Your breath deepens. Your thoughts slow down. You're not constantly projecting into the future or reliving the past. You're here, now. That presence becomes your magnet. And the more present you are, the more powerfully you attract. You can desire deeply and still be detached. It's not about caring less, it's about trusting more. You let your actions arise from alignment, not anxiety. You let your visions guide you without owning your worth. And from that space, you stop trying to prove or persuade. You simply become, and what aligns will meet you there. Detachment creates space for clarity. It sharpens your discernment. You're no longer pulled into every opportunity, relationship, or idea. You know what's meant for you will feel like ease and no confusion. So you wait. Not out of passivity, but out of power. You wait because your energy is no longer for sale to whatever knocks first. This energetic discipline doesn't come overnight. It comes from choosing yourself over and over again, from watching what drains you and deciding not to entertain it anymore, from trusting that you don't need to chase to be chosen. You need to align to be met. That's the detachment that draws miracles without force. In detachment, your emotions still move, but they don't control. You feel, but you don't spiral. You hope, but you don't hinge your peace on outcomes. You show up fully, but you don't collapse when things shift. That balance creates safety, and safety is what allows life to flow in, unfiltered and full of grace. So no, detachment isn't distance, it's deep, centered presence. It's the knowing that you are not defined by what stays or what leaves. You are defined by your alignment, your integrity, and your peace. And when you hold that energy, life begins to orbit around you not because you tried to control it, but because you mastered the art of letting go. Flow state. How life begins to meet you. Flow is not just a mood, it's a frequency. It's the vibration you enter when you stop resisting, overthinking, or trying to micromanage life. Flow is the energetic sweet spot where intention, presence, and surrender intersect. When you enter that space, you're no longer forcing things to happen. You're allowing them to unfold. And that's when life begins to move toward you, rather than you chasing it down. The shift into flow begins with presence. When you're deeply in the moment, not obsessing over the past or anxious about the future, your energy stabilizes. In that grounded state, you become magnetic to aligned experiences. The universe no longer sees you as scattered, it sees you as available. And aligned things love to arrive where they feel welcome. Flow state isn't passive, it's responsive. You're not sitting around doing nothing. You're attuned to when it's time to act and when it's time to wait. The difference is, you're no longer moving from fear. You're moving from resonance. That's the beauty of flow, it aligns timing with clarity, so that action feels effortless, not exhausting. In flow, your creativity expands. Ideas arrive naturally. Opportunities feel timed perfectly. Conversations go deeper. Even challenges feel purposeful. You stop struggling for momentum and begin surfing the waves life brings. The more you trust this rhythm, the less you worry about how things will happen. You just stay aligned and let them happen. Flow is a conversation between your energy and your environment. When you're in tune, life responds immediately. You'll notice synchronicities, chance meetings, divine delays that redirect you to something better. These aren't accidents, they're confirmations that you're in flow. And the more you honor that rhythm, the more guidance reveals itself. In a flow state, your nervous system relaxes. You don't need to brace for what's next. You're no longer addicted to urgency. Peace becomes your baseline, not your reward. And in that peace, you move with power, not rushed, not desperate, just aligned. That's when people start asking, how are things working so well for you? And your answer is, I stopped fighting the current. Life meets you where your frequency lives. When you're tense, it mirrors tension. When you're open, it mirrors flow. This isn't about faking positivity, it's about aligning with truth. Flow happens when your internal world is coherent. When your thoughts, emotions, and actions are vibrating in the same direction. That coherence makes you a tuning fork for grace. You'll know you're in flow when things feel light. Not because they're always easy, but because they're aligned. Even the hard moments have meaning. Even the slow seasons feel rich. You don't panic in the pauses. You understand that resting is part of receiving, and you let life build itself around the frequency you've chosen to hold. Flow is deeply intuitive. It asks you to listen more than plan, to trust nudges over logic. You start following energy, not calendars, and somehow, things get done faster, cleaner, better. Because you're no longer bulldozing through life, you're collaborating with it. That's the essence of flow. Partnership with the present moment. You don't fall into flow by accident. You enter it by releasing resistance. That might mean letting go of timelines, relationships, or beliefs that keep you out of sync. It means trusting your body's signals. noticing when your energy drops, respecting when it rises. It means giving yourself permission to shift your approach without guilt. In flow, life is not something you chase at, something you dance with. You move with what moves you. You pause when intuition whispers. You leap when clarity lands. And through it all, you're no longer fighting yourself. You're allowing. You're receiving. You're co-creating with every breath and step. This state doesn't mean problems disappear. It means your response to them changes. You handle them with more grace, less panic. You don't spiral, you breathe. You don't control, you align. That subtle shift creates a massive difference. And soon, life begins to mirror that stability back to you. The more you choose flow, the more miracles feel normal. You stop seeing them as rare gifts and start recognizing them as your natural state. The right ideas, people, and paths start appearing without you having to beg, push, or prove. That's the reward of alignment. It calls in everything you once thought you had to earn. In flow, your sense of time changes. You lose track of it, not because you're distracted, but because you're immersed. Time bends around alignment. What once took months can unfold in days. You'll finish things faster, meet people sooner, resolve issues more smoothly. Flow removes the static that slows down manifestation. Being in flow doesn't mean being perfect. It means being present. Present enough to adjust. Present enough to course correct. Present enough to admit when something no longer serves you. Flow invites feedback from the universe, and you learn to listen without shame. You move forward lightly, because you're not dragging the weight of your past self with you. Flow also sharpens your boundaries. When you're in tune with your energy, you know immediately when something is off. You don't entertain misaligned situations for long. You don't explain your worth. You don't force connections. You stay true to your rhythm, and what resonates will naturally stay in harmony with you. Flow removes the need for external validation. You're not waiting for applause to feel worthy. Your peace becomes enough. You feel fulfilled, not because everything is perfect, but because you're living in alignment with your truth. That kind of fulfillment is stable, repeatable, and magnetic. You begin to trust delays. You trust detours. You trust that what doesn't arrive was never meant to anchor in your timeline. And instead of mourning what didn't come, you give thanks for the clarity it brought. That level of trust only lives in flow. It's the art of letting life lead, without losing your direction. Flow doesn't mean life always feels good. It means you're always grounded in truth, even when it doesn't. You're not avoiding the lows, you're simply not resisting them. You move through life with soft focus and strong presence. You feel, you release, you continue. That rhythm is healing in itself. So if you've been chasing, forcing, doubting, pause. Return to presence. Tune back in. The flow hasn't left you, it's been waiting for you to stop running. And the moment you realign, life begins to meet you with everything you thought you had to chase. That's the quiet miracle of the flow state. From desperation to calm confidence. Desperation is loud. It pleads. It begs. It reaches. It's rooted in the belief that something is missing, and that without it, you are incomplete. But calm confidence whispers. It trusts. It breathes. It allows. It knows that nothing truly meant for you can be taken, delayed, or missed. The journey from desperation to calm confidence is not external, it's energetic. When you're desperate, your energy says, I need this to feel safe. That creates a gap between you and the thing you desire. It becomes something outside of you, something you're trying to control or chase. But when you shift into calm confidence, your energy says, I'm already whole. That frequency closes the gap. It turns attraction into alignment. Desperation makes you abandon yourself. You override your intuition to please, perform, or prove. You ignore red flags, force timelines, and tolerate things that don't honor your worth. You accept crumbs, hoping they'll lead to something more. But calm confidence is self-sourced. It sets standards from truth, not from fear. It knows what it deserves, and it doesn't settle for less. The shift begins when you stop reacting and start reflecting. When you pause long enough to ask, is this rooted in love or lack? That question alone can change your path, because most desperate actions don't come from clarity, they come from scarcity. But calm confidence only acts when alignment is present. It waits for truth. It doesn't chase noise. You can feel the difference in your body. Desperation feels tight, anxious, heavy. Calm confidence feels open, light, steady. The world teaches you to hustle and grasp, but your soul was never built for that kind of fear. Your soul was built to trust, to receive, to magnetism from ego, but from essence. Desperation is impatient. It wants results now. It wants signs, guarantees, immediate answers. But calm confidence understands divine timing. It knows that some things need to grow in the unseen before they arrive in the physical. It holds space without panicking. It replaces urgency with faith. That alone changes everything. When you're desperate, you over-explain. You overgive. You over-try, hoping someone or something will validate your worth. But when you're confident, you say less and mean more. Your energy speaks for you. You no longer need to be loud, because your presence is clear, and what aligns with that clarity finds you. You can't fake calm confidence. It's not performance, it's embodiment. You build it by keeping promises to yourself, by showing up when no one's watching, by healing the part of you that thought you had to chase love, success, or recognition. Confidence isn't arrogance, it's self-trust, and that trust creates peace. The desperate self is reactive. It jumps at every opportunity, fears missing out, and feels threatened by uncertainty. The confident self is selective. It discerns. It knows that passing on what isn't right makes room for what is. Confidence says no with grace and yes with alignment. It doesn't just want something, it knows it's ready for it. Desperation often shows up after wounding. Rejection, failure, or abandonment can trick you into believing you're not enough. But healing transforms that story. It says, I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become. Calm confidence is the result of that choice. It's the reward of your inner work. This shift isn't always sudden. It's built moment by moment. It's built by responding differently, choosing yourself even when it's hard, and not shrinking to keep the peace. Confidence grows every time you honor your energy. And with each choice, the desperate part of you becomes quieter and the powerful part becomes louder. In calm confidence, you don't need everything figured out. You move anyway. You trust that the next step will reveal itself when it's time. You stop needing every door to open and start recognizing the value of the closed ones. You learn to bless the delay, honor the detour, and trust that your path is unfolding exactly as it should. Desperation looks outward. Confidence looks inward. Desperation asks, will they pick me? Confidence says, I choose me. That simple shift in focus changes your vibration entirely. You stop trying to be chosen. Start becoming the version of you that no longer needs to beg for anything. When you're confident, your silence speaks louder than your effort. You don't prove, you embody. You don't chase, you attract. And the things that once made you feel small no longer hold power over you. You see them for what they were, teachers, not truths. And you rise. This energy shift affects everything. The way you speak, move, create, love. You no longer tolerate situations that drain you. You walk away without burning bridges because your peace is louder than your pride. You no longer need the last word, you just need the right frequency. And that's where you live now. In calm confidence, rejection doesn't sting the same. It redirects you without wounding your worth. You trust that if something didn't stay, it wasn't meant to. That trust saves you years of struggle. Because once you stop begging for alignment, you begin receiving it naturally, effortlessly. You start to love more deeply without needing control. You give without expectation. You allow others to be who they are without bending yourself to fit. Confidence makes space. It creates healthier connections. Because when you don't need anyone to complete you, the relationships that remain are chosen, not clung to. The confident you doesn't rush love, purpose, or success. It knows that what's truly aligned will never require you to abandon your truth. You no longer measure your progress against others. You honor your own rhythm. And in that rhythm, you find real freedom. The desperate self asks for permission. The confident self gives it. Permission to rest, to rise, to say no, to change, to evolve. That power was never outside of you, was always waiting for you to claim it. And now, you are. So if you're shifting from desperation to calm confidence, stay the course. The old you needed to force things to feel seen. The new you simply radiates. And from that energy, life begins to flow. The paradox. When you stop chasing, it comes. There's a strange truth at the heart of manifestation. The more you chase something, the further it seems to run. But the moment you stop chasing, when you finally release, surrender, and detach, it begins to show up effortlessly. This isn't magic, it's alignment. It's the universe responding not to your desire, but to your energy. Chasing carries the energy of lack. It says, I don't have this yet, and I'll only feel whole when it arrives. That frequency pushes what you want further away. It creates tension in the field. But when you stop chasing, your energy shifts from lack to wholeness, and that change magnetizes what you were trying to hunt down. It's not about no longer wanting. It's about no longer needing. There's a difference between desire and dependence. You can desire something and still feel full within. That's when your vibration aligns with receiving. You move from the energy of craving to the energy of allowing, and the universe only delivers to open hands. Think of chasing like running after your own reflection. The faster you move, the more distorted it becomes. But when you stand still, it becomes clear. What you're meant for can only see you when you're fully present. The moment you stop chasing the reflection, you embody the source and the mirror shifts. Chasing is rooted in fear. Fear that time is running out. Fear that you're falling behind. Fear that if you stop trying, nothing will happen. But this fear keeps your frequency in survival mode. And survival energy doesn't attract, it repels. Stillness, however, is not inactivity, it's trust. And trust creates coherence. When you chase something, you place it above you. You tell the universe, this has more power than I do. But when you align, you remember your own power. You stop trying to get and start choosing to be. You realize it was never about chasing the thing, it was about becoming the version of you who no longer needed to. The paradox is that when you truly no longer need it, that's when you finally become a match for it. Not because you've stopped caring, but because you've risen into the frequency where it naturally lives. You're not pushing to reach it, you're now walking side by side with it. That's what makes it come without resistance. The universe isn't testing your patience, it's responding to your energy. It waits for you to stop seeking from emptiness and start radiating from wholeness. Once that shift happens, timelines collapse. What felt distant begins to arrive. Not because you worked harder, but because you stopped chasing and started resonating. You've been taught that effort equals reward, but in the quantum field, energy equals reward. You can't earn what you don't energetically align with. And chasing, even with good intentions, tells the universe you don't yet believe you are a match. That's why release is so powerful. It's not giving up, it's leveling up. You begin to notice the paradox everywhere. The moment you stop obsessing over love, love arrives. The moment you stop stressing about money, opportunities appear. The moment you stop forcing creativity, inspiration flows. This isn't accidental. It's how energy responds when tension is removed. There's a grace that enters your life when you stop trying so hard. When you stop needing to fix, prove, earn, or hustle. You move with a softer energy, an energy that doesn't beg, but receives. That doesn't chase, but attracts. That doesn't grasp, but opens. That shift is what invites what you once thought you had to fight for. Letting go doesn't mean losing the dream, it means losing the struggle around it. You keep the vision, you hold the desire, but you stop gripping the how. You stop needing guarantees. You start living in alignment and trust. And from that space, your dreams begin to meet you halfway. Chasing is based in force. Flow is based in faith. The longer you chase, the more disconnected you feel. But the moment you shift to trust, life begins to respond. Not all at once. Not always dramatically, but consistently, clearly, and with perfect timing. You don't have to prove yourself to receive. You don't have to chase something that's already seeking you. But to allow it in, you must first stop pushing it away with your desperate energy. The chase ends when you choose peace over pressure. That peace sends out a different frequency, one of calm readiness. People often say, "But if I don't chase it, how will it happen?" The answer is, alignment makes it happen. When your mind, body, and energy are in harmony, action becomes inspired, not forced. You'll still move, but it won't feel frantic. It will feel guided. That's when the doors begin to open. This paradox requires patience, because in the beginning, it feels like nothing is happening. But behind the scenes, everything is shifting. Your field is clearing. Your signal is sharpening. And when it finally lands, it will make sense why it couldn't come while you were still chasing. The chase is rooted in old programming. But your new self knows better. It knows that what's truly yours will culminate when you demand it. But when you embody it, you don't chase worth, you remember it. You don't chase love, you become it. You don't chase alignment, you live in it. In truth, nothing flows toward resistance. Everything flows toward ease. So when you become ease, life flows to you. That's why you must stop trying to force the path and instead become the path. That's when things move. That's when you stop searching and start receiving. So if you're tired of chasing, that's a good sign. It means your energy is ready to evolve. You're ready to move from force to frequency, from effort to embodiment. And once you do, life stops running from you and begins to flow to you. Let this be your reminder. You don't attract by chasing. You attract by becoming. And when you become, there's nothing left to chase, only space to receive. And now, maybe you understand why it had to fall apart, why the striving stopped working, why the path got quiet. You were never meant to force the river. You were meant to become so light, so surrendered, so aligned, that flow became inevitable. When you stop caring from the ego, life begins to respond to your energy. Because detachment isn't weakness, it's wisdom. And the moment you stop gripping the outcome, you finally make space for the outcome to find you. So as you leave this space, carry this with you. You don't manifest from desperation. You manifest from peace. And peace begins when you trust the flow more than your fear. If this message stirred something inside you, if it reminded you of a truth you almost forgot, then subscribe. Not for more content, but for more of this frequency. Because around here, we don't chase alignment. We become it. And from that place, everything flows.